Okay, let's see what's going on here. I don't know why I have this playing twice. Okay. Hey, you guys. And I don't know why I have a background noise going on. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, I found out. I had my hey everybody, I'm Yolanda, and I am locating cozy, and this is a broad chat. So I hope everybody's doing good. Yeah, it kind of started off kind of funky just because I forgot that I have YouTube pulled up on another something on my laptop, and so I was getting like double feedback. So, anyways, all is well. Just a second, and let me get my banner started. I'm still getting adjusted to like actually doing these vlogs like twice a week now, so bear with me, please. But yes, welcome to Abroad Chat. I'm so happy that you guys are here and joining me and being entertained and gaining some insight as we share our experiences with the possibility of living a lighter, easier life. How about that? So, first of all, let's see here. Please do make sure that you do like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I really do appreciate it, and you will be notified whenever I go live, and or if I decide to post some recorded, like post something up, upload a video, because I'll start doing that again soon. Because 2 lives a week, you know what? It's a little challenging. Never say never. I might just keep doing the lives and just going with the flow. But I think probably on Wednesdays, I'm going to start just uploading a pre-record and then doing a live on Sunday evenings at 5. I don't know for sure yet. We'll kind of see how it goes and go from there. So I could be totally lying. Okay. So before we get started, on the topic at hand, I did want to take some time, and I do have a very special guest here today. Yes, I am interviewing on the regular now, so I'm excited. And today we have Tonye, and welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Yolanda. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Happy, holidays.
Yes, Thanksgiving Eve, your day off Eve. I don't know. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people took off like today, so
Mm-hmm.
it's
Correct.
cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. So let's see here. So one of the things, hi, I wanted to go ahead and just say hi to a couple people that are joining me. And so hello, Miss Winnie B. Thank you for joining. You're watching from work. Yes, multitask, girl. Please do multitask.
Mm-hmm. That's
We are
right.
good at that. Yes. So I used to listen to like my thing used to be before I, started doing some other things, other types of jobs. But yeah, I can listen to audiobooks all day, 24/7. Yes. So yes, I know about multitasking. Okay. And then also I wanted to say hello, Olayinka. I'm sorry about that. Hey there, how are you doing? Good to see you on this side. Thank you. I appreciate the support. So let me make sure I'm saying your name right. Tonye, right?
That's correct.
I got it. Okay, cool. Awesome. So before we get started, I like to ask my 2 big questions. And to start off, I would like to know what's going on in your world. Maybe you want to know what's going on in my world. So, what's going on in my world? So, right now I am, okay. I don't know. I think I shared this in the group, but I didn't share it on the live this past weekend that I went to a farmer's market. And here they have it every Saturday over by the cathedral here in Zaragoza. And I went and I got me some like fresh, bok choy, and I got some fresh celery, and I got some beets. Yeah. And I was just like so excited. And I came home and I was ready to wash, rinse everything off to make sure, because I was going to make I like to make ramen at home now. And I looked down and was thinking, like, what is that? So, and then I look on my wall, like just above the kitchen, there's snails. There were snails.
Ooh.
Okay. I was like, little bitty snails. And I was like, oh my God. So then it kind of freaked me out because I was like, like, are they on my clothes? What's going on? How many were there? So, anyways, I guess when it comes down to the big scope of things, they were fresh. Like these veggies were dug up fresh, like within the past 24 hours, because the snails were like still living in there. So I guess when I thought about it and when I posted it on social media, some people were like, "Oh my God, that's so disgusting," and other people were like, "Shows that they're not using pesticides. Like this is nature's way."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Oh, escargot." Oh, but no, I did, I did not. I sent the snails out in their way, and then I double checked all the leaves again to make sure that there's no more snails. So, anyways, that's what's going on. That was this past weekend, but it was something pretty oddly weird and entertaining and scary at the same time because I was really grossed.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, what's going on in your world, Tonye?
Well, my world is my word for this last quarter of the year, actually last couple of months of the year, is just getting ready for the shift. So that's what it is for me because I'm making a number of changes in my life, both, in terms of work and in terms of my life in general. And so that's where I am in terms of locating my cozy. I am in the zone of making a shift. And so that means I'm trying to be as fluid as possible. And that's not just in my mindset, but in the way I'm moving in general. So I'm trying to implement that mind, body, spirit, that fluidity so I don't get stuck because I have a tendency to one of those people that's, always in the head. So
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to come back to that because I have questions. So, and you might have answers. Yes. So the other thing that I do like to ask is besides what's going on in my world and sharing, I welcome you to please do share what's going on in your world. And I also want you to tell me, how are you locating your cozy? What are you doing? Tell me, what are you doing? Something selfish, something that's all about you, something that says, I'm going to make my life just a little bit better or a whole lot better. What are you doing? For me, para mí, okay, I am going to lunch with my daughter tomorrow. Yeah. So we're starting to develop because my granddaughter has started, they start school at like three years old here. Like the pre-K
Mm.
starts at 3. Anyways, but she doesn't get out of school until 5 o'clock on Thursday. So that is the day that my daughter and I actually get together and we go out for lunch. And so tomorrow we're going to a hot pot. And I just experienced a hot pot for the first time a few weeks ago, and I love it. And so it's just me and my daughter are going. The only part about the hot pot when I went a few weeks ago is that it was a group of us.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of grossed me out because it was like 11 of us, and great company, great experience. You don't get to share. I mean, they're cooking down the broth, but you don't get to, not everybody at the end, people were like forgetting to use the ladles or whatever. So if they don't bring enough
Oh.
utensils
Mm-hmm.
out for you to be able to individually grab, so you're grabbing with the chopsticks. And I'm like, good. But,
Oh man.
but me and my daughter are going to go tomorrow. It's okay. She's the fruit of my loins. So it's fine. Okay.
Oh, nice save.
Yes, that's how are you locating your cozy, Miss Tanya, Miss Tonye?
Well, the I was off yesterday and today. That was a long story involved in that because I did share with you. I know I did share with you, offline that I work in healthcare, and so anybody who's in healthcare anywhere, whether you're on the floor, off the floor, whatever, it's really, really stressful. And it's unfortunate that, well, the irony and the what makes it unfortunate too is the fact that healthcare is riddled with a very exploitative mindset, and that's organizational. And as a Black woman, the number of points of intersectionality. But anywho, long story short, I said, you know what? I'm going to take these days that I have off and I'm just going to decompress and do what I want to do. And so yesterday, my decompression started yesterday, where I just did whatever I felt like doing. I did not hold myself to a list of to-dos because that stresses me out. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to rest. I'm going to get prepped for, my cooking for the rest of the week, because Thanksgiving for me is about prepping for the real holiday, which is Christmas, in my opinion, because growing up as a kid, Thanksgiving was very labor intensive. And I swore to myself when I became an adult, I was going to just be chilling and all that. So that's my mindset. I am chilling these days. My food is basically cooked. I'm going to turn on my PBS and watch all of my Agatha Christie murder mystery shows, sip my tea. And, I got the fireplace going. So I'm really, in terms of cozy,
Okay, you are really
that's
located. You're
cozy.
cozy.
That's
Okay.
cozy. Yeah.
And we literally talked about this yesterday because we did like a little brief chat yesterday. But yeah, we were talking about the childhood trauma of having to uh, do all the prep for like big holidays. Yeah, we were free labor, and
Hmm.
I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, appreciate the feedings and all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of came to.
Yeah.
You see my face right now, like ugh. When it got down to the
Hmm.
holidays, 'cause I know my mom was gonna have me in there cooking, like cutting up onions and celery, and she was like,
Hmm.
"No, they have to be these tiny, tiny pieces." And yeah, and we
Yep.
hadn't figured out the ways of cutting up onions and not crying and not having tears roll down your face when I was younger. So you just sat there and suffered
Hmm.
because my mama wasn't doing it. She was like,
Yep.
"No, I provided the groceries. No."
Exactly. Exactly. And this is part of the joys being a woman.
Yes, yes. I'm like, okay, if you say so.
Hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
is so I was just going back in the comments when uh Olayinka was just saying how fresh the vegetables were, that it still had all the snails in there. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was yeah, I had to look at it in a different because I wasn't throwing it out. I wasn't going to throw out the vegetables. Somebody had stated in my group of friends, they were like, I would have like thrown all those veggies out. It's like no, I wasn't.
No.
Oh.
Nope. Break out that vinegar and soak.
And stuff. But yes, and yeah, we're good to go. And I ate some. I made some dishes already with you know what I bought, and
Hmm.
I'm fine. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm still here. So
Yeah.
yes. So Tonye, please do tell me about you. Tell us about you, please do.
Well, a little bit about me. I've been on this planet half a century now. And yes, that's the way I like to say it. And I'm just at this point, I'm just living my life. It's been a journey for me in terms of giving myself grace, because growing up as a girl, you have that conditioning is a lot. um you have your roles, your gender roles and everything, and culturally too, it's a lot. And so I had, over the years, especially as you get older, you have to start rethinking, your life, rethinking, separating what's actually you versus conditioning. And that's
Mhm.
what I've been on a personal journey right now, because there were some, things that precipitated that. My mom had passed, and then several years later, it was I had another passing in the family. My older sister passed, and I was really got to a point where I was already at a point of taking care stock of my life, because I'd had some health issues leading up to that. And I had a number of epiphanies and realizations. And I said, at what point is your life your own? Is it not about obligation and other people, and living on that altar of other people's expectations? That's what I call it, because I've
Yes.
done that most of my life. And I said, well, you know what? It's time to do some internal work, because I try to do it externally in terms of things like setting boundaries and that kind of thing. But really, if you're not doing the work internally, which I think is the most challenging to one, get started, and two, to actually implement consistently in your life. Um, I found that I needed to do the work internally. And that's when I really started decoupling a lot of things. And you know, I was so focused on doing my work. It wasn't until I started having some jarring encounters with family and things like that that I realized, oh, when you start, decoupling, deconditioning, and centering yourself, things are going to that's another set of
Yeah, there's
challenges.
backlash. Well, and the reason, I mean, I feel like the reason why is because we are expected to do so much with very little in return for so long, and we have
Hmm.
accepted that for so long that when you finally step up and say, "No, I'm taking care of me now," it's like,
Hmm.
"How dare you? What
Oh
what
yeah.
what do you mean?"
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, so you just gonna leave me out here just yes, right now? Yeah, you're gonna be okay.
Hmm.
Okay, you're gonna be fine.
You're going to be
I'm
outside
a
for a little bit.
yeah. I'm gonna save myself first.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's what I've been doing. And as a result of that, a blog grew out of that. When I got on my fitness journey, a
Hmm.
blog grew out of that. And then I said, started playing with with the notion of having my own business. And so things kind of grew out of that. And so I created a blog, I created a
Oh,
podcast,
okay.
and now I created a consultancy business around that as well. However, I'm not hardcore into that because, again, America has been Americaing, and work
Mm.
has been, working, and then there've been some other things. So I haven't locked that down as I want to, but I do know too, in terms of getting back to the whole theme of shift. I came to the realization that this is not going to be the place where my one, best life, and two, where really uh, define home and place and tribe will be here in the US. I've come to
Yeah.
that realization, it took a while to get there. And thankfully, people like, Stephanie, Rashida, and some other folks that I've been following since the pandemic, because the pandemic was the real brick against the wall, was the pandemic. Because for those of us in healthcare, woo, we were cannon
Oh,
fodder. We
yeah.
were cannon fodder.
Yes.
We were literally cannon fodder. And it was when you, as a healthcare worker, are literally getting into, because this was what happened because when that happened, it affected things like supply chain, logistics, all of that got affected. And a lot of people don't understand that in a healthcare setting, personal protective equipment, that when you see those movies, like you think of those movies like The Strain, or what was it, some other pandemic-y kind of, dystopian movie,
Hmm.
that stuff actually can happen in real life.
And
And
you
in
lived through
this,
it.
and I essentially lived through it. And it was traumatic. I had literally had coworkers that said, you know what, deuces, I'm out. I've got parents that are immunocompromised. I can't stay, here. And I knew
Yeah.
a number of colleagues that had their own side hustle established. Then that's when the bell went off, really started ringing in my head too.
Yeah.
They
That's what
had
a
their
lot of
own.
people had done. Yeah.
Right.
They
And
literally.
so, right, because they were compelling us to, we had to be vaccinated. We had to, once the vaccine became available, all of that. And we became essentially cannon fodder and test dummies for, organizations, and for their whatever, was going on policy wide. There was a number of issues where I had literally gotten into, being the Black woman out there protesting and all of that. I learned my lesson from that too, where I was advocating for myself, but other people for PPE. I eventually got what we needed, because it got to the point we had an incident on the floor where laboratory personnel got into confrontations with nursing on the floor because there were inadequate N95 masks, and we were literally having to go into patient rooms that had COVID.
Yeah.
And so eventually what ended up happening, yeah, I got pulled into the principal's office and written up and all of that. You didn't go through chain of command XYZ, and I'm like, whatever. But long story short, that I having to go through that, making my own realizations too, it really drilled home the importance of one's self-care, and self-care not just in terms of for me, because the way self-care is promoted on social media is very colonized. It's very positive, toxic positivity, and it doesn't really address issues, especially as a Black woman who has so many points of intersectionality in this society. Anyway, we are always the least protected. On the job, you have microaggressions, and you have a number, a plethora of things. I could write a book on that.
Yeah.
But long story short, I came to the realization. I started doing more readings with, like Audre Lorde and her work and studies on self-care, especially in service industries like healthcare and things like that, where yeah, self-care does become very political, and it's a lot of instances it's resistance. And then the notion of rest, being overworked, having to come in to do overtime, those kind of things. So that's all led me to this point where I am today, where I'm really centering myself, and I'm really passionate now about not just myself, but making sure, because I have coworkers that are also Black women in healthcare, and I see the same thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to have another Black woman that I know die because of this, because that's been um and it's very personal to me, because that happened to my mother, that happened to my older sister. And I said, you know what, this
Lack of
cycle,
quality care, or being
you know
dismissed.
just being dismissed, overworked, lack of quality care, being the center of everything for everyone, but not putting your own health and well-being as
Yeah.
as the main priority. Because I think a lot of times we lose sight of the fact that in our communities, in our families, Black women are the center. We're the center where all the spokes come from in that wheel. And so once, in the words of Chinua Achebe, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. We are the centers. And if we don't do what we need to be well and healthy, everything else falls apart. And I saw that in real time when my sister passed suddenly. She seemed healthy or whatever, but I knew she was overworked. She was a superwoman mom. It was crazy. And that's a whole nother, conversation, grief, and all of that, navigating that. But at the end of the day, I said, what do you want? How are you going to get it? Let's do it. And so I
Mhm.
said, at some point you have to really think, what's the definition of crazy? Doing the same thing over and over again and
With the
expecting a different
same,
result.
yeah,
You're
getting the
not
same
going to live,
results.
yeah, you're not going to live the life you want. You're not going to be healthy. You're not, all of these things. You have all these gifts, all these things inside of you as a woman, as a human being, and you accomplish very little of it because you're constrained by all these other things around you. And
So let me just say, so because when you speak that, that was exactly where I felt like I was when I decided to up and leave my job. I was like,
mm-hmm,
and my daughters had been like, they, before I even found Exodus Summit, my daughters were like, you need to leave that job. But because I was
mm-hmm,
in a certain, I was in a managerial position. I was in a position of where the income was a lot more. And I
mm-hmm,
thought, and I believed, and I bought into that idea that this is what it's like to succeed in life.
right,
You have to take it if you want to continue to have the nice things and
mm-hmm,
and go on trips. This is what you have to accept. But
mm-hmm.
when you think about, how many times have you gone on a trip and not been able to enjoy it completely because you knew that you were
Yep,
coming back to a hot mess?
exactly, that
Whether
part.
it's your job or your home life, usually it was the job.
Mm-hmm,
In my case, it was definitely the job, and I just dreaded. It's like, one of those things, like when you come back from vacation, you still need a day or two to
mm-hmm,
regroup just so
yep,
you can be ready to go to work. It was like to the it was like to the next level because we went to Hawaii and I was like, wow, I'm in Hawaii for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
And just to feel that burden on your shoulders as you're getting on the plane and headed back and about to
Mm-hmm.
land, and then you have to, yeah, that whole journey. And I was having that feeling also when I was coming back the first few times. I came to Spain and I was here for a while and had to go back and I was like,
Yep.
and yeah, but my daughters were like literally like, you need to quit that job, but I just didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was doing some research to do things in one way, I came across Exodus Summit, and that's when I attended my first summit. Have you? Was this your first? Because you were at this year's summit, right?
I was at this year's summit. I heard about the other summits, and then, I was hemming and hawing because, again, you know how I say everything, and it's true. It sounds cliche, but everything is effing true. It Once you get past the mental thing, you can run full
Hmm.
throttle, essentially. And I was hemming and hawing. I was, it's like I was stressed. I was like, well, how could I do this? I got to do this. It's just me, healthcare, this and that. And then so I hemmed and hawed so long, I missed the other summit, the summit before this.
The
And
2023
so
one. Okay.
the 2023 one, because that's when I didn't find Stephanie and Rashida until the beginning of last year. That's when
Okay.
I
Yeah.
came across them because I was watching some other videos, but I wasn't getting the information or the perspective that I wanted because these people weren't black. One, two, they
Yeah.
weren't black women. And so, you know how you're digging through trying to, what is it, eat the meat and spit out the bones kind of situation. That's what I felt like I was trying to do with all these other
I've
folks.
never heard that like that
Yeah,
that analogy.
yeah,
Okay.
I was trying it. So I was in that mode doing that. And so finally I came across Rashida, Stephanie and all of that. And Stephanie, oh my gosh, total breath of air because that woman, the way she was like, no, I'm in my rest phase. I'm not going to do shit. How about that? And so that really inspired me. And then our Black Utopia, Halisi, and she was militant, and all of that. I was like,
Yes. All
where
the
do these
different
people
personalities
right?
that are speaking to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
So
I was
you
like,
have
where
the
do these
version
people
of,
come from? Yeah.
the auntie, the big sister, the little sister. I'm
Hmm.
going to be doing an episode in the near future about how we need to also take in and heed what the younger people are doing
Right.
to heal, and
Right.
saying no. And so take
Hmm.
your cue from them too. But
Yeah.
yes.
And so so this was my first summit. And so what had happened, this year too, I've done a lot more work. At the end of last year, there were some things that happened. I was in therapy. That was the other thing. I took myself on my own retreat to myself because I do these things. I'm an Aries, I do these things, and that'd be like, ooh, bring out the gasoline matches and burn shit down. That's me. And so I try not to get to that point because I know what I will do when I get to that point. But anywho, I had this really intensive journey that started with me asking those questions. You gotta, make a decision, you gotta get a plan, you gotta take action. And that's started last, I don't know what it is about summer, the end of summer, those August months, but that's been my transformation months. And so I went on my own trip. I went to this place in Mexico called Isla Mujeres, the island of women, is dedicated to an ancient Maya goddess. So yeah, I was in that. I was in that
Oh,
mindset. So that was my personal retreat. Came back, had some things on my agenda, XYZ. I said, okay, I've missed Summit, whatever. I know there's going to be another one coming up because I'd already heard the rumblings of it. Went back to Mexico, did another decompression because, this place be life in. Had some more epiphanies. Got my residency in another country, Mexico. That was a series of universal things, goddess in, universal things moving in alignment once I was in flow. And so this year I said, okay, you know what? Yes, you can get stuff for free, but I am bougie on a budget and I'm not doing this shit. I am going to Summit. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to go to Summit. And I paid the money and went. Close one eye, as my grandma used to say. Close one eye and just put the money there. So that's, yeah. So I did that. So I just literally closed my app, put the money there, and said, boom, it's done. So I did
Yeah.
that. Then I also went to the Move to Portugal Summit. So I went
Okay.
to two summits. And so because I had that realization and I was really in the mode of, look, when you really serious about something, you don't find the money. Not
Oh yeah.
necessarily put yourself in, not put yourself in a precarious position financially or whatever, but you will do the things that align you in such a way that you're able to make that investment. And that's what I did. And so Summit really clarified a number of things, and it was very inspirational for me too. And then as a result of that, I connected with you. I connected with a couple of other women, and I'm like, this is literally something that can be accomplished. And so today, speaking of being fluid, locating my cozy, I know that my cozy place is not here.
Yeah.
This is not my cozy place. I did a Canva digital vision boards. I started that in August last year. Guess what? The vision boards, yes, people, the manifestation spiritual girlies got it right. I manifested everything on that board. I had Merida residency in another country. I had Portugal, Lisbon on that. All of that shite got done
Okay.
on that
So,
vision
okay.
board.
So let me ask you this. Okay. So are you looking, when you get ready to make your move, are you looking to make a work move, like a light retirement, or making sure that you are fully up and functional with your own business?
I'm going to follow Adalia Boroshade's plan, which is I want to do coast. I know because I'm not rich. I
Mhm.
don't have that level of investment stored away that I could coast on, investments until retirement age. And so I said, well, that means, my next phase is I've got to get the remote from anywhere position and or do the business. I already know. And I've seen so many things now leading up to even today, in fact, that is really nudging me in the direction of going full throttle with my own self-care business, self-care and
Okay.
VA service. So that's why I've gone to the efforts of setting up websites for that separately on the Sybil Consortium. That's where I do the self-care and the VA services that's the platform for that. I have blogging because blogging was also my way of working through some things too and having conversations with myself and parsing out conversations I'd had with other women about the notion, the ideas of self-care and how that um, manifests in other areas of your life. It's not a separate thing. It's not something you do. It's not treating yourself in XYZ, what it looks like for Black women, what it should look like for Black women, what how should it be applied, how you can apply it in other areas of your life to get the freedom and the blossoming level of blossoming of yourself, self-actualization that you want.
Okay.
So, that's this is where I am today. And, it's a little bit daunting, but then I'm also excited about it too.
Okay. So you want to lean into the remote work possibility, but
Just as a all, just
as a cushion.
as a cushion,
Okay.
because I have not fully, it's not like I have a whole full roster of clients in terms of my business side that could, you know, just
Yeah.
knock that out.
I
But
get
in
it.
the interim, I'm about, hey, whatever I can cobble together at this point to get me situated so that I can make the moves what I want in a certain amount of time.
Yeah. So today's topic is, and I kind of curated it around our conversation about me anticipating talking to you is on your way out. So the perfect country to move abroad to with confidence. And I said it like that because, and we're going to get into it in just a little bit, but I want to
Hmm.
be very clear that there is no perfect.
Right.
There is no perfect.
Hmm.
But there's some things that you can put on your plate as far as your, what did I call it? Your must-haves,
Hmm.
your will still considers, and then you have your, oh, hell no, I will
Exactly.
not.
Exactly.
So which one outweighs which can actually speak to you as to what you can actually find that's going to suit you well. But
Right.
I'll get back to that in just a few minutes. So
Sure.
I'm going to ask you a pretty direct question right now. The idea of moving abroad, what scares you the most?
What scares me most is not having my ish together that I have to come back. Because see, my thing is, this is a girl that I've seen what it looks like personally when you have to come back because things didn't work out. And that's, not me personally, but I've seen it at operation in my family, and I know I don't want that. My thing, my worst thing, my nightmare would be to have to come back to the US, because my thing is I'm out. Because my family members, I have remaining family members on my, mom's side. We've never been close because we didn't grow up in the country all that long, and there was some internal, every family's got its drama.
Yeah.
But and then my nieces are at an age now, my sister's girls, they're in, one's already, she's, doing post grad work, living her best little life. The middle one, she's, about to be, she's a junior now in college. The youngest one will be in college in another 2 years. And then her father is
Okay.
returning back to the motherland. So
Okay.
I already know that. So nobody's going to be here. So I might as well live my best life and do what I got to do and think about myself.
Okay.
And so, that's how, excuse me, that's how that looks for me. And so I'm like, I've never fully, even as a teenager, felt like, I've never felt very like this was home. And then the
Okay.
more as a, as because as a teen and a young adult, you're preoccupied with your own little world of high school and, the things that teenagers and kids do. But inevitably, as you get older, especially as you get into the workforce, the realities of what's happening and the dynamics in society begins to impact you even more. And depending on what, a lot, depending on what area you choose to make your career in, that changes. There's like in a lot of things, there's a continuum where of different things. There's a continuum of microaggressions. There is a continuum of misogyny and patriarchy that you have to dealing with if you're in the corporate world. So all those things differ, and you have to navigate that as an adult. And so as I've gotten older, I've done corporate. At one point I've even worked for the federal government as an intern, so I've done all these things. And all of these, as I distill all of that information, especially as I'm having my epiphanies and my final realizations in terms of what I want my life to look like
Mm-hmm.
in this latter half of my life, what I want it to look like, this is not the place. I've done my pros and cons of the US, and I kid you not, I have not traveled to every state in the US of A. I've gone through regions, of the country. I've lived on the West Coast. I have not lived in the East Coast. I've traversed a little bit in the US, but the bit that I have, acquired, I don't want to live here. This is not my
Mm-hmm.
cozy.
Yeah.
There's no location in the US that will be cozy for me. Let's put it that way. To my satisfaction, that is.
Yeah.
And
And the thing is to be able to just say that, I was just to say like, no, it's not working. Now, I do want to just say, and everybody has their own mission, everybody has their own
mhm,
journey. But with that, I remember one of the things that I said before is, as a solo traveler, somebody that's by myself, of course I have family, but just like
mhm,
doing things on my own, I will say that um, I don't consider anything I do as a mistake. I consider it a learning experience.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like that I may or may not do again. And I'll be like, oh, maybe I won't do that
Mhm.
again. I've learned
Right.
something.
I like that
But
I positively had to say. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
if you had to come back, it means you stepped out in faith and left the US.
Mhm.
It's like, and
Yeah.
so, one of the things that Stephanie has said before is, if I do need to come back to the US and reload up or whatever I need to do, so be it. It's
Right.
not it's like, it's a part of the journey, and then I plan to get up and get out again.
Mhm.
um I have a friend of mine, one of my life sisters, that asked me the other day. She's like, "So, because I was planning to come back to Texas for at least a couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in May or June," and she asked me, we had talked since before, the November stuff, and but she asked me, she says, "Are you coming back in May?" And I was like, "I don't know. I mean, I might go to Mexico for a couple of months if I can and go pet sit around there. That's how I like to traveling, and see some people there. But I was like, I'll let you know if I mean, I have to come back probably like for maybe a week or two
Mm-hmm.
because there's some business that I need to attend to. But other than that, my goal, my wish is to get in and get the hell out.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Get
I
in, get the
agree.
stuff done, get out, maybe head down to Mexico.
Right.
I want to see my daughters. My other
Mm-hmm.
two daughters are still there in the States. But for me, I now know this peace in my heart and in my
Mm-hmm.
soul that I'm like, if
Natalie.
I can avoid it, I mean, if I have to go back for a while and stuff, so be it.
Right.
I ain't paying rent there. Because that's one thing for sure that I said I will never. When I say never, I
Mm-hmm.
never pay rent or mortgage in the U.S. because I'm like I only plan to be there for a
Mm-hmm.
short period of time, and even if I did go back for 6 months, I would still, because I know I've done it before, logistically set up pet sits where I didn't have to worry
Right.
about paying any kind of
Right. So that's the thing too. I've
yeah.
been contemplating too because I remember Stephanie and she had some other she'd also had somebody interviewed somebody who was essentially living that way without doing,
Mhm.
renting or anything like that. So, for clarification purposes, yeah,
Yeah,
I
me
don't want
too.
to come
Yeah, a year
back.
and a half I did that.
Yeah. That's awesome and I'd like to have add that to my toolkit. But yeah, essentially I don't want, my goal is not to return once I leave. I'm one of those people that maybe it's a function of trauma, training, whatever you want to call it, but I know when I'm done with something, when I'm done,
Hmm.
and that's with people, places, things. I might have a little, I guess nostalgia, whatever, in my heart as I'm leaving, but I have no problem decoupling and being gone. So
Yeah.
ultimately, my thing is, at this point, because I don't believe at this point in my life, I have any time or energy to dedicate to settling. And
Hmm.
so I promised myself at the conclusion of my time doing what I needed to do from August of last year till, even my birthday scouting trip in Portugal, especially as I was taking it in Portugal, I was so at peace, so joyful. I literally, there was one day I actually cried because I was so grateful and thankful to have had that experience and to have that settled, grounded feeling of knowing that you did what you said you were going to do. And you did, not only did you do it, you did it well, and you had no regrets about that. And so
So,
I don't want to interrupt you. You were getting ready to say
oh no, no,
something.
no. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish what you were
Um,
saying.
and at the end, that was to the, I guess, the pièce de résistance, where I said, you know what, going forward, definitely this life is not about settling. So I'm not going to settle in any more aspects of my life. So that's why I said, with the exception of me making some other thoughts or having some other senses of knowing or perceptions or whatever, I do know ultimately what my list is, what are my must haves, and what are my, you know,
Oh hell
maybes. And
knows.
one of, yeah, and my,
Okay.
yeah, and my hell knows. And one of the hell knows is I don't do struggle.
Okay.
In that regard, I'm like Rashida and Stephanie. I'm not struggling. I've been on the continent, lived on the continent. I love, everybody had your, whatever. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Europe. I know one thing. At this big age, Tonye is not for the struggle, boo. I will do my bougie on a budget, but I am not for the struggle, boo. That means even if, that's why I said I will do, that's why I'm not willing to do anything like any major, kind of career thing where, yeah, I might pull in six figures, but what's the six-figure drama and stress associated with that? I'm not
That
trying to do
part.
that. I
That
just
part.
want enough to keep my, my own personal investments going, pay my little bills wherever I am, and foot my travel across the globe as I skip, skip, skip to Malou. That's my plan. That is my plan. And
Okay,
oh yes, and
so
account for inflation too.
there you go. So you've gone to, you said you've been to Mexico. What parts
Hmm.
of Europe have you been to?
I have been to, oh, I love Scotland. Scotland was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I went on an actual women's retreat in Scotland, stayed at a castle. It was glorious. And yes, their cows are happy. Anybody want to know? Their cows are happy because there were literal there was a cattle, cows up in pasture and everything. Those things were adorable and so chill. I took pictures with them and everything, saw the imaginary fairies, jumped in a lake naked with other women as we, you know, paid homage to the great goddess there in the Scotland lakes. Yeah, we did all the things. That was
Wow.
amazing. That was in and actually that was around the same time. I said August, there's something about August for me personally that seems to be a transformational time for me. And yeah, it was in August that I did that of 2017. And then I've spent just a little time in Ireland. I'll never forget. I was in the hotel, and the bartender was like, "Yeah, you're staying. You are you going to? You're going to be in Dublin, right?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm going to Scotland." He said, "No, we're better. You need to stay here in Ireland." And I was like, "I'm sorry, boo. I gotta go. There's a bunch of women waiting for me. I gotta go." But I've been there. Been to the UK. Didn't spend a whole lot of time there. I don't like places that are gray. I'm sorry. I'm a tropical girly. I need sun, lots. I can navigate heat. That's why I love Merida and Mexico. I can navigate heat. It's that cold, dreary, melancholy. I can't do that. And I do get seasonal affective disorder too. So I'm like, I'm not
Hmm.
about that life. That's a struggle for me. If I got to struggle to enjoy and put my mind in the mindset of, yes, I'm gonna enjoy the season of fall and winter. No, that's not me. I'm not doing that. That's too much work.
And see, I could
So,
never do Merida. And I'm from Houston, but I could not even think of doing Merida. I had literally heard like some of the people that I know that have said they like, I had my daughter's friend did like a year in Merida, and she was like,
hmm
"Oh, it's fine. It's like I'm from Houston. It's no big deal." She's like, "That's a
butthole of
different kind of
hell.
heat."
Yeah, yeah, literally. It is hot. It's hot. There's no one. It's no wonder that people, once, what, 10 o'clock, people have cleared the streets.
Yeah,
But
Rosalind says she got her residency in Merida.
hmm yeah, it's hot, but I love that colonial meets. What I love about this is what I love about Mexico, because I've been to Merida, Isla Mujeres. I've been to San Miguel de Allende. That's where I first fell in love with the idea and the feel of Mexico as a place to
Hmm.
potentially retire to. It had that Spanish colonial, but it had that ancient indigenous energy from the Maya and all of that, uh, that got fused into not just the architecture but in the art. And that's always drawn me to Mexico. And in Merida, it's the same thing. You have the Spanish colonial buildings and art, and wrought iron and all of that. I love that. Super hot. San Miguel gets hot too, but they get cold too, but it's that desert heat. So that's the
Hmm.
difference. Why people, I guess, tolerate it better, but it's very healing. That's the thing. San Miguel de Allende, it reminds me of Portugal in that sense. Is very healing. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah,
but it's
I was there
beautiful.
for a few weeks in February of this
Mhm.
year, because I did like three pet sits around Mexico, and one of them was, yeah,
Mhm.
in San Miguel. I got definitely ill there also, but yeah, it was
Ooh.
fine. Yeah, there's like, I don't know if it was like some. I mean, I'm like triple vaccinated or whatever, so but I still got
Mhm.
sick, and I was like, this is some new stuff. Okay, this
Mhm.
is something different. But the support that I received from the host,
Oh yeah.
the I I always tell this story. Danica from HD Abroad, when she found that I was sick,
Oh.
she was like, she wasn't. she was not even in the country. She was not in Mexico. She found out I was sick. She was like,
Oh.
I can reach out to such and such, like the black girl community there in San Miguel, if you need me to,
Oh.
so they can come and check on you and do whatever and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I did not, I should have actually, went ahead and said, yes, please do send them. And I was already in light contact with them, but
Mm-hmm.
Danica was like, no, 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 they're coming over, and I was like, hold
Mm-hmm.
on, it's okay. I'll be fine. My fever's dropped some, but
That's good.
it was great to know. And also the fact that, yeah, the doctors come to your house, come to wherever
Oh
you are.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is, that's what's kept Mexico on my list. Actually, those two places, San Miguel and Merida. My goal was to, I said, at some point I got to get back to San Miguel because I want to feel that energy again of San Miguel. Both all places in Mexico. That's the thing. If people are able to go to as many regions as possible, because each region has its own energy, and you can feel the spiritual energy of those places as well.
Mm-hmm.
Merida has a lot, and then also I have a background in anthropology and archaeology, so that was another draw for
Another part
me.
of it. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they have a museum that's which was surprising, very eye-opening, where they clearly made you took very they took a lot of pains to explain the the incident the presence of Black people in Merida. They were escaped slaves. Some of them were escaped slaves. Some of them were freed slaves from Mexico that lived in together with indigenous people there in Merida. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
museum there, Maya Museum there, that has a full diorama display with the notations and everything. I'm like, US could
Wow.
never. But
Okay.
anywho, mm-hmm,
Okay. So I know that. So let's do a little bit digging here because I know it's
yeah,
like you've narrowed it down and you said that you're open to Mexico, Spain, and Portugal. So my question
mm-hmm,
is, what attracted you? Now I know, and we'll get into it in a minute, that
mm-hmm,
Spain was kind of put on the back burner
mm-hmm.
and now it's coming back up. Little
Yeah.
creep, little creep. But what
Yeah.
attracted you to these countries, these specific countries, in terms of like culture, lifestyle, and what opportunities?
Well, on okay, so superficially, when I did my research of it, it was one was very important, and I know you never move to one place just because of economics, but for me, three things are super important, and that's as a result of my own history, what my own experience, and my own observations. Three things, especially as a single woman. Three things very important to me: transportation, infrastructure, cost of living. In these three, Mexico has it. Believe it or not, for the naysayers out there, Mexico does have it. They have a degree of infrastructure. It's a matter of, like I said, continuum. What works for you? Your cans, cannots, what you can negotiate. But ultimately, transportation, infrastructure, healthcare is very important for me too.
Yeah,
And I know that healthcare in these three places are far better resourced than they are here in the US. Not only
fact,
that, it's
fact.
cheaper. And also, working in healthcare, I know the statistics for the outcomes of Black women, whether it's maternal health or otherwise. They're not good. The
Yeah.
numbers, and especially as you get older, you have, and I just don't, I'm at the point now, I said, I'm not struggling. I'm not educating. I'm not struggling. Live in your racism, die in it. That's where I'm at now. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
all about, I want a place where I know I can get good health care. I want a place where I know it's much more economical to live. And another thing too, underlying that too, is community. In Mexico, I felt the energy of community. People, yes, they're, criminals and whatever people. They're everybody. Every group has its bad people,
Yeah.
but that is not the thing that meets you when you come to these places. And even just
Yes.
on my research and play, of listen, reading and listening to YouTubers, Black YouTubers, and everything talk about Portugal and their experiences, they've, alluded to, the sense of community you feel in these places, and that's what I want. I want, so that's what's drawn me to that. And even the same thing, and that's something too that is a commonality among a lot of Latin cultures. And when I say that, I'm speaking not just of Latin America, here, but that's true of like Spain as well. That
Yeah.
community aspect. This is something that is germane to these cultures. Portugal, I don't know a whole lot of. I'm more familiar with like Brazil and what that's like, but I'm open to learning new languages. I studied French in high school, had to go through that a lot. I, studied Spanish, not fluent anymore in French anymore, or, but I get the basics. I can navigate my way a little bit in Spanish. I can do that. I
Okay.
can do Spanglish and all of that. So ease of learning languages too was another thing. I said, Portuguese is not like trying to learn Mandarin. I can work with that. So that's
Okay.
not a barrier. That's not a barrier to entry for me. Then another thing too, I said, event of an emergency, say, my niece is saying, we're not, regardless of whatever, we're not leaving the US of A or whatever. In terms of family or me going to see family in an event of emergency, is I'm not traveling 24 hours.
Okay.
That's another thing. Same thing with Europe. What I liked about Spain and Portugal is they're very well located in terms of traveling. If I need to travel to Africa, if I need to travel, see family in Africa, if I need to travel to, if I want to travel to other parts of Europe,
Yeah.
it's a very good location to be. Why I chose Portugal again and Spain is I'm looking at what's going on politically in these places. I know we have a rise of the alt-right here in the US. I see little, stirs of that in other parts of Europe. And I'm saying, based on the history of these places, because I'm one of those, I've lived through a coup. So I'm not trying to do that again. So
It's like
what is
you're scarred. Your PTSD is like I've seen it from my own
I
eyes.
seen it
Okay.
what I seen. And so, and then just from, I'm one of those people that I like to be prepared. I like to have a plan A, plan B. I'm an action girl. Like what is it? Like the 18, I know I'm dating myself. I loved 18 growing up. But that's my mentality. And so that's another reason why too. I say I'm never buying property in another country again, because if I need to get up and go, I got my go bag. Girl is deuces. I'm
What they
gone.
call the bug out bag. The bug
The
out
bug
bag.
out bag, go bag, whatever you want to call it. And so my thing is, when I'm looking at regions too, what areas in these regions have, based on their history and what's going on now, because there was a couple of, I think, was I still in Portugal or had I just left Portugal? That was so sometime around late March, early April. I was on Twitter before I deleted my account post election. The European Union late at night, they were literally having a debate and conversation about how do they mitigate any negative outcomes of the US election. And I was listening to translators talk in the various languages. I'm like, damn, they worried about this too? Okay, let
Oh
me
yeah.
tune
Oh
in.
yeah.
And so, that just hit, nailed home the fact that um, you still have to be mindful. You definitely need to be mindful of what's going on and don't necessarily be, so in love with the place you want to go to, where you say, in my mind, I know I want to live in Paris, I want to live in Spain, or whatever. Or I want to live in Germany, I want to be in the Netherlands. What's going on in these areas in what's, relative to what's happening in the US. So I looked at things like political stability, economic, those kind of things, and how that might impact me as a Black woman, because I remember watching what happened to African people in Ukraine when that stuff went down.
Oh yeah. Oh
There
yes.
were, I'm like, not gonna be me. That's why I said, yeah, I'd love to visit places like Croatia, Poland, da, 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 da. Will I live there? Probably not.
Okay.
Because, so that's kind of my mentality. And these are the things too that condition my responses when you ask me, okay, where do I want to be? So that's
Yeah.
why these places like Portugal and Spain, they seem to be the most inert in terms of those kind of things happening. Yeah, they don't want, they have their issues with visitors and stuff like that. But even when I was looking on social media, the bulk of the people they were having issues with, especially in Barcelona, was those UK young men that were coming up,
Hmm.
tearing up their places. I heard about that. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But
So
anywho,
yeah,
that's
because
neither
I've
here.
heard some people okay, so am I a little biased? A little bit, yeah, because I
Mm-hmm.
live here now. I've come here so many times, and I fell in love with Madrid. I fell in love with Zaragoza because I have family here, but I fell
Mm-hmm.
in love with Spain because of Madrid and the
Mm-hmm.
community that I felt there. Now, of course, I love um, you know I love being here in Zaragoza in all parts of Spain, but I've heard so many people say they've heard on the news about the incidents with some of the locals coming after the tourists and throwing water on them or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I always like to let people know what is in the news is not the whole of your experience
Right.
anywhere.
Right.
I mean, unless it's just completely war torn, now that's different. But
Mm-hmm.
um, so when you see them talking about these incidents in Barcelona, however that the tourists might feel about it, that is
Mm-hmm.
not the whole of the experience
Right.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some attitude with certain people sometimes? But
Mm-hmm.
when I look at it as a whole, I
Right.
still feel better than being in the United States.
And that's my point. And when because I've seen trolls and stuff like that, not necessarily on your channel, but some of the larger channels where people are saying, well, why you all going to why y'all all going to Europe and the colonizers and stuff like that? And as Alicia has said and other people have said, and anyone who's had the opportunity to get out of this country for any length of time, you understand that yes, racism, anti-blackness is global. The level of violence and intensity, the U.S. has a
They got
monopoly on
everybody
that.
beat on that.
We
Yeah,
got a
they got to
monopoly
be.
of that. And then, for people saying, well, why don't you go to West Africa? Look, boo, I grew up in West Africa. I can
I
tell
was just
you
about
right
to
now.
ask you this right now because only you can ask
Yeah,
what part of.
yeah, like my family is, Nigerian, on my dad's side. And
Okay.
I can tell you the level of that I've experienced sometimes, and I have a love hate relationship actually with Nigeria. I go home sometimes with family and stuff like some relatives and extended family because some of them live in Illinois too. But some of the most if you're talking about discrimination or whatever, some of that actually was I had more of that growing up as a teenager in Nigeria than I did here. Well, before I
In
really
a
got,
different
you know
arenas, yeah.
yes, it's a different arena because
But you felt it
and I
just the
think this is
same.
something right. If I felt it just the same, that othering
Hmm.
aspect. Oh, this one not Oyibo. This is, basically you're a foreigner, you're a white person. Well, not a white person or what have you. Or, because my family I'm from the East, there were issues with, there were plenty of time. Anytime there's like, economics or whatever, who does any country always pick on in the midst of economic stress? They pick on the
Hmm.
people who are not from that area. Same thing happens in Africa.
Oh, everywhere.
It happens everywhere. So you're going to encounter that everywhere. What did Tonye say? I am not struggling. I'm not doing no trauma. I ain't doing no drama. I'm already working on shit. I'm not trying to get no more. And so, what does that mean? I'm not going to go to a place where I feel I will encounter more of that, or what I've experienced before was something I don't want to go through again. And so, again, another thing I'm looking at is what is the regional stability? I know things about what's going on regionally in that part of Africa that I'm like, yeah, this is probably not a long term place you want to be anyway. Unless you're in
Yeah.
your specific, with your specific tribe, in your specific village. And even to then, there is no real guarantee of safety in that instance. What I know what's going on regionally in terms of the play of France and some of the other countries with resources and stuff like that, that could easily end up like DRC, God forbid. But there's some things going on that I know that's happening regionally and socially that I'm like, yeah, that's probably not where I want to be right now. And so, again, that's why none of those places are on the list. Same thing when I look at South Africa. South Africa, I've heard is beautiful. I'd love to travel, go there, whatever. Is that a place that I would see myself living?
Yeah.
Why? No. Infrastructure is, at my big age, healthcare, infrastructure, economic, regional, socioeconomic and political stability. Those are things I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
And so so places like Mexico, again, Spain, France, even, and Portugal those are the places that would ultimately, that's my plan to end up in one of those places.
Okay. So I love Portugal. I absolutely, well, I've only been to Lisbon twice and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a lot of people are like making their way there or relocating there.
Mm-hmm.
Portugal was not a place that I would want to, well, yeah, I don't want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Just I mean, for various reasons, but I love going there, and I
Mm-hmm.
will be going there next Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be headed over
Oh,
there. Yeah, I'm going back next Friday.
wow.
So
I'm jealous. I'm
as soon
jealous.
as I got my residency approved here, I was like, I'm going back to Portugal to go visit. And so I immediately started looking for a pet sit so I can go and hang out for a week or two. And I found, a pet sit, and I was like, oh, okay, this will
You
work.
gotta
This will
tell
work.
you gotta share you and D gotta share some more on that whole pet situation. I joined the free one just so I could see version of Trusted House Sitters, just so I could
Hmm.
do like
Is
window
there a free
shopping and see
version?
them. There,
Oh,
well,
you just did okay, just like a
I just
basic, like a
signed
look
up,
see. Okay,
right,
got you.
so I could look see, but I haven't seen how to integrate that into my planning or whatever. But the main thing, what actually pushed,
I'm like, I'm putting my
I'm
code down
sorry,
there for everybody.
right, what actually pushed Spain down below Portugal was the fact that I don't have the ability to get an EU passport. That's the only thing. Other than that, I would have chosen Spain. Would have knocked out Lisbon. I mean,
Okay,
easily.
we were talking yesterday, and you said that Spain was kind of creeping back in a little bit. So what
Yeah,
happened?
because it's all you Spain folk that keep showing up. And even when it's not you, it's some other people. Sure, YouTube keeps pushing all these other videos about Spain. And I'm like, okay, look, I already got a list of 3. I'm trying to stay on. So, I'm like, darn it, and that's the thing, because Spain, I've never been to Spain, but I was like, okay, so, well, I guess, well, if you were in Portugal, you could still go visit Spain, or who knows? There's still
It's an
the
hour and 20,
opportunity.
25 minutes by flight. Yeah.
Well, I could stay. I could get do the whole Lisbon thing, get the Lisbon, get the Portugal residency, but then eventually move over to Spain. I don't know, but I do know Spain. As fighting right now, Spain and Portugal are having a little tussle right now. So I haven't figured out how to resolve that. But ultimately, the only thing I guess at this point would be if I could get Spanish residency, long-term residency quicker than I could for Portugal. But then again, my thing is, what is my ultimate objective if, in this whole scenario? I've got one residency nailed down, I want another residency, and I want another passport. So what does that mean? So
Okay. But okay,
that's what
so
I'm
I
looking
guess,
at.
of course, the question then becomes, what are the pros and cons of having a long-term residency versus actually getting a passport in another
Well,
country?
because the thing is, you are going essentially in terms of from what I've seen, going for long term residency, like saying have 5 renewing your Spanish residency to get what? Permanent residency? Is that how it works?
I'm sorry, say that again, sweetie. What?
You can get Spanish residency, right? I believe it's
Hmm.
is it up to 10 years or is it beyond 10 years?
You can, I mean, you can do it once after 10 years, you can actually apply for your citizenship if you want it.
But you
Um,
would have to give up, but you don't want, I'm saying if you
yeah,
don't want to
there's
give
no
that,
dual citizen. Yeah, there's no dual citizenship. You can still continue to do your residency and just
can
extend
it
your
does it
residency.
become permanent residency after like
Yeah,
5 years or something?
I
Or no?
think after 10 years, it becomes permanent residency. So I just got approved for the 5 years. And my
Okay.
daughter just got approved because she's been here since 2016 though. But
Right.
she just got approved this year for her permanent residency, and she's been here 8 years. But then she also
Okay.
married a naturalized citizen here. But yeah,
So, okay. So when I look at that and I look at the Portuguese, residency, you essentially within somewhere between 7 to 10 years to get your permanent residency in
hmm,
Portugal. Portugal too, you can apply for the citizenship, which is gives you the passport.
yeah,
You don't have They have dual citizenship. They have that agreement with the US. So that's the rub
got you.
for me.
Okay,
You still would spend ultimately, conservatively speaking, about the same length of time getting permanent residency. One, you get the added benefit of having an EU passport versus one you don't because you would
I
have
get you.
to.
Okay, I
So
understand.
that's
But
the
I'm going to say
problem.
this, and I will agree with not before 10, Rosalind, who came over to hang out with me a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
Yes, Spain will romance you. It'll be like, I love you.
Well, you know
Stay with me,
what?
baby.
Hey, I guess, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now I've got that
Don't leave
TikTok
me,
video in
baby.
my head. Stay with me, baby. I'm gonna have to, I'm just gonna have to, I'm taking, I'm, contemplating some things. I told you about that. I'm not gonna say that on YouTube because, this is
Mhm.
the internet. But I
Mhm.
did share with you offline and in the group, about some plans, for later on. And I think, if I can find a economical, because like remember I said I'm bougie on a budget, to come and visit, hang out in Spain for a little bit and think about, walk around, think about,
Come on, girl.
I'm actually contemplating that because last I know I and this is the thing. Remember back to the vision board. I did, but when did I implement this vision board? I implemented that vision board January of last year, but I started the vision board in around the same time in August, and I promised myself end of 2022 that was going to be the last year where I celebrate New Year's in country. And so I kind of want to hold to that. So I'm gonna play around and see what I can see. So while I make
Okay.
some other plans, but I would definitely, if I can swing it, I definitely want to do a little bit of time in Spain. And I'm a
Yeah.
train girl too. I love trains, so
Yes, I
that's
was just
another
gonna.
thing.
Okay, so Rosalind, I'm not sure if you were asking if there was a train that goes from Spain to Lisbon. Not yet. Not
Mm-mm,
yet.
that's a lie.
Yeah, from Madrid to Lisbon, there is not one. There's buses. A young lady that was here and stuff actually left and took a bus to Lisbon. And if that works for you, great.
How did
But
she
she had
like
been.
it?
She said it was fine. The thing was, she had been traveling. Raina had been traveling, I guess, for like months on end around like doing
Hmm.
those digital nomad groups where you go and stay in countries for like a month or 6 weeks or something.
Oh, okay.
So she was done with being in the airports and canceled flights and delays and all that. So that's why she was like, I will take a bus to
Well,
Lisbon and
I'll
I'll be
do a
fine with that.
luxury bus because I've heard about the luxury buses in Mexico, and I've seen those, and those are
Yeah,
top tier. Now, if it's
yeah,
something
those
like
were
that,
nice.
I could do a bus. Otherwise, no, 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 boo. I gotta hop
No,
a
but they don't
plane.
have a train yet. It's coming, but they don't have it yet. So yeah, I was looking at alternatives for me going to Lisbon next week, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'll take a train. I was like excited, and because I got on Rome to Rio, and they were like,
Mm-hmm.
here's a way that you can take a train. And then when I dug in deep, it's like, actually, no, it's just buses. So
Uh,
I don't have the patience to go like I don't have the patience for
No.
that right now. Not saying that I would not later on, but right now I'm like, no. So I will be catching a flight over to Lisbon next week, and yes, and works for me. So
Mhm.
one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, oh, just a second. I have a few. Um, I have two more
Mm.
questions here if I can find them. And then, oh, okay.
All right.
So, have you found it difficult to separate facts from the portrayed idea
Uh,
of like the dream, the idolized idea of moving to another country? Like as you're doing your research and you're getting ready and you have like your date
oh,
that you're
sorry.
planning to be out of here. Um, have you had some kind of issues with reconciling the dream with reality and what to expect?
Um, I think because of my own experiences, that hasn't really been an issue because, as and this is just me. It might be for some other people because I know everybody has a struggle in a different area, not necessarily in the same area when it comes to something like this. And for me, that's not really an issue simply because the way we grew up and having to the realities of packing and discarding and the stress of hopping planes, switching planes, and all of that, and getting settled in a new place. Because when we were kids, shout out to the Gen Z and millennial parents because they literally talk with their kids before they take them to another country that where they don't speak the language. They ask their opinions. How do you feel about that was not our journey.
It's like you going.
No, and we did not go to we I think we were in some a pseudo international school maybe for a few weeks, and then it was into the local school system, and that was jarring. That was traumatic.
Wow.
So I don't recommend that anybody doing that for their kids now. So, all of this experiences distill into my perceptions now. Outside of me not having enough information about a place, my expectations, I think, are pretty reasonable, and I think that's because I'm in my head a lot. I'm one of those people that overthink stuff a lot, and I'm,
Mhm.
breaking, having to. I have my own routines for doing a pattern interrupt, with therapy and all of that to address those issues. But that's where the importance of making a plan, getting a plan, making a decision, and then taking action comes into play because you do have to. I have three separate file folders. I still have the Spain folder where I printed out all of this much information as I could about Spain and all of that. And then I specifically, because they're travelers all over from various demographics. It's only, in the last 5 years or so that we've really been exposed to people that look like us, speaking on
Being
these
sex, yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah, being
What it's
so
like,
extensive
right?
experience and
Right.
traveling now.
So a
Yeah, it's
lot of
wild.
reading
Yeah.
I did for in travel, I looked at Travel Noir and some other people to get there. And I actually was reading comments of black women's experiences in places like Spain and stuff like that. Like there was one lady that spoke on living in Valencia, what that was like for her. And that was in the comments that I was reading and things
Hmm.
like that. And then also too, there is a Portugal propaganda Facebook group that is essentially bashing all things, supposedly pulling the rose tinted glasses off your eyes when it comes to Portugal. It said things people will not tell you, the ugly things about Portugal they will not tell you. So I'm in that group where I, been
Hmm.
in there because I know nothing, every utopia. And I think that's part of the fact too that I'm not a doomsdayer. I will not say that. But I am one of those people that I've watched enough apocalyptic movies to know not everything that looks great is great,
Yeah.
so there's always something going on. Even in the Wizard of Oz, you pull the curtain back and it's this little tiny man with his insecurities and all of that BS. So at the end of the day, that list, what are your must haves? what are the things that I can negotiate on this. Yeah, there
Yeah.
might be a little bit of traffic. I could deal with that. Or people are little, they don't move as fast as the U.S. moves. Or they got a lot more bureaucracy. But I love the people. I love the food. Healthcare is great. This is great. I can do it.
Yeah.
So
The
that's
bureaucracy
my
is the beast
right,
here. Yeah, that's
right.
the
That's
my
I heard about the bureaucracy. I heard about that in Spain. I heard about it in the bureaucracy in France, and I heard about the one in Portugal. And I
Mhm.
heard, I heard more than I wanted to hear about in that group I was telling you about that, was essentially bashing Portugal. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we all have to do our own calculations. And I know non-negotiables for me is infrastructure, because if shit goes sideways, I want to be able to get to the nearest airport as soon as I can and be like, deuces, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Not being a hater, but for get myself
You
safe.
have different life experiences, so
Right,
your your
right,
your your must-haves, or what you need, your criteria is
right,
different. And that's why
right,
I always say that, when I share on my social media and what other people are sharing on their social media, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or whatever, about their experiences of living abroad, take the information, use it, but don't create a narrative of your future based
right.
on just what I said.
Right. You have to create
Yes.
it for yourself, not around somebody else's reality. That will never work for you. And,
Yes,
at first,
yes,
because when I first started following you and other people, yeah, I was a little bit frustrated because I was like, "But this is so damn vague. I need some more information." But then the more people I listen to, and especially, being in places like Exodus Summit and some of in the Black Americans in Portugal, Black in Portugal, and all these other groups, the reality of it is I had to, hit myself on the head and say, hey, you've been out of this country too. Come on now, make the connection. It's going to be different for every single person. What the important part is that you have your list of what you need, and that will help weed out the noise.
yes,
So you know what you need. If you don't care about distance from the US to here, then maybe Southeast Asia or South Africa is perfect for you. If you're somebody that doesn't like political instability, there are certain parts of the world you will never go to in terms of talking about to live,
yeah,
especially as a living in your body of a Black woman. And this is how I'm making my decisions as a Black woman with my circumstances at my age. What are the things that I require that are the most important to me? And that is healthcare, infrastructure, and quality of life. And under quality of life, I'm looking at things like affordability. I understand Paris is very expensive, but I'm not really a city girl. I'm someone who's an outskirts of the city. So I like to, I have my Goldilocks zone. People at work laugh at me. Tonye, you always talking about Goldilocks zone. I say, yeah, because as in like, and every disaster movie I've seen and every terrorist movie I've seen, you never want to be in the center. Why? Because that is the soft target. And so I don't ever want to be there. You want to be on
she's
just
like,
close enough to get
because of that
into the
movie that I
city.
saw, don't get me wrong, I know, like, military, she has the whole, like, military
Yes,
stance,
but
like, okay,
see, I
like
was
the
also
offensive versus
I was
defensive.
also an ROTC girl too. Before my mother said you're not going into the military, so that's where she stopped me at college. She's like, no, you're not going into ROTC. You're not. This ROTC is as close you get into the army as you ever see in this lifetime. So that never happened. So those are the kind of things that play into my way of thinking. But I've never been like a city. I don't like that. That's why Mexico City. I've gone through Mexico City a couple of times. I'm like, this place, it looks very interesting, but it's too much for me. I like, little faster than suburbs. So I like places that are very, that's why Lisbon was the part of Lisbon where I stayed there purposely because it was just outside the city center, but I could get to the city center either walking 15 minutes or hopping a little tram or whatever, but I was far enough but close enough. So those are my guiding principles. So that also too helps with what I'm looking for in terms of places to live. The closer you are to city center, at least in my general understanding, the more you're gonna expect to pay per
Oh yeah,
square,
absolutely.
square
Absolutely.
meter. So,
Because
that
yeah, what
works.
I pay here in the city center of big old Zaragoza and
Mm-hmm.
stuff is still it's more than like maybe what my daughter is paying, and she lives like just like on the like not she's not right in the center. She lives more in
Mm-hmm.
kind of the suburbs of Zaragoza, and they
Yeah.
pay a lot less for a lot more
But
property.
I see, I want
So
to be close
yeah,
enough to that I don't need a car. So that's
yeah,
the other thing. Because I'm not, I'm not doing a car thing again. So that's,
yeah.
something I'm, transportation, infrastructure, because, you got to have good infrastructure for public transportation to work. And then, healthcare and affordability. So that's
So
where I am.
I was going to go back and just say one on regarding the bureaucratic process. So, as
Mm-hmm.
some of you know, I'm slowly but surely creating a soft space landing for Black women that might want to come to check out Zaragoza, or either if they're moving. And so, I have a guest right now who moved to Zaragoza in October. Um, yeah, hi Christine. Beijing Alpha moved to here in October, and she was not finding an apartment right away. Her company actually has offices in Spain, so she was able to make a move. Anyways, she finally found an apartment, and what she has gone through to
Ooh.
get the apartment, like you can't just go online. She couldn't just go online and sign. She had
Oh.
to go back to the office, and they had to like do all these things and verify. Then she had to go back to the office to sign, and then it came down to getting her electricity turned on. The electricity
Uh-oh.
was still on from the last tenant, and they gave her the when she signed the lease, they gave her some of the information for her to be able to call the electric company and
Mm-hmm.
and get it set up. And they were like, well, we can't turn it on in your name until it's actually physically turned off in the previous tenant's name. There was no transfer option. She's like,
Oh, wow. So
so
how long
she's
did
been
that take?
struggling this week. She thought she was going to be move into her
Oh.
new place. Um, I don't know, like probably like Monday or Tuesday, like So
Mhm.
now she has the key to her new place, but she can't move in because doesn't have any electricity. And then she can't get her Wi-Fi turned on, no internet until the electricity is turned back on.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So what is is there like an average time like it takes with the, bureaucracy? Is it like, can you at least get an idea? Is it like something you can expect like maybe 1 to 2 weeks, or like how does that work?
I don't know. And the reason I don't know specifically is because my experience was so very different when I came here. One is I did find a place through one of the groups that I belong to. I found a
Mhm.
place in Zaragoza before I came, but I did move in for 3 months afterwards because the tenant was still there. But then where I'm living here in
Mhm.
my flat, the electricity is still on in the landlord's name.
Okay.
The Wi-Fi is still on in the landlord's name, so I just pay them directly. So I
Okay.
don't know all of this. So I'm experiencing this with her, and I just see her frustration. I feel so
Oh.
bad for her, and I'm like, you won't be homeless. You got a place to stay until
You got a place. You got a place. Yeah, but
yes,
that is interesting. But you know what? I don't know. I know it's frustrating because I've been in places where you gotta wait, and not just the bureaucracy, boo, but the bribery. Ooh,
hmm.
child. Mm, that
Oh,
was
you
a
said the bribery?
the girl.
Oh, okay, I
Hey,
haven't
when
been in
you
that life.
yeah,
Okay.
you gotta grease some palms to get, yeah. So yeah, so I and so again, this is why I say, these some things are things that are negotiable for me, probably won't be negotiable for us other people, or things that I can tolerate, level of. So bureaucracy without having to grease a few palms, boo, I can do that. Okay, I can do that. That's not a problem. I can do
She's
that
like,
because
wow.
even the greasing the palm, the person is still not gonna come when you need them to get there. So you
Yeah.
gonna wait a minute. So I can do that. So, but yeah, but everything else, yeah, I can do. And also, I heard people talking about spices that we usually cook with, like our Lorry seasoned salt and all of that, that you can't get in, some places. Because I know Halise is always complaining about Lori's seasoned salt and the masa for her tortillas and all of that. I mean,
Hmm.
I just be laughing because I have learned, because this is Yeah, this is a me in my head. Yeah, this is me and my little, eccentric self. I read labels. I'm a label reader, especially when I
Hmm.
started on my health journey, label reader. And all of the stuff that's in some of these things, I'm like, "Oh hell no. I'm not eating that." So I'm one of those people that actually blends my own seasoning salt now.
Okay.
So I blend so I'm like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Oh yeah, people talking about," I was like, that wouldn't be a problem for me. I make my own. Tea, I'm good. I blend my own teas. So I start, these are things that these are type of skills. If you have this, I guess this is where I guess this is a long drawn out way of saying, know that whatever skills, life skills you have, there are ways to apply that to if you're really, if you're really saying I'm going to do this, that you can apply to your, new situation in order to make your landing a much more comfortable experience.
Hmm.
So, if you open your mind to that, and that's what I'm learning to do, open my mind to this, that, those things that you like to do, like this, X, Y, and Z, in order to get around this, start thinking in a way that know that you might have to implement, use those abilities wherever you end up. So, anywho,
And yeah,
that's my
it's just giving, you know, that confidence is doing your research. And I like to always stress this: do your research, do your due diligence, but also know that things are going to happen. Shit's going to happen. Okay.
yeah.
And you will have to adjust accordingly. Okay. And that's going to make a difference in having a positive or negative experience wherever you go. If you're coming
And
to Spain, wherever.
speaking of that, Yolanda, you're talking on that, and then Adalia, because we had the money,
Adelia. Yeah.
Adelia, we had that money,
Hmm.
move abroad money thing, the other day where we had the workshop. That old shit money,
Uh-huh.
gotta have that.
Hmm.
Gotta have that. So I am so happy that because I started that listening to her last year too, and I started building that up. So that alleviates a lot. That's been helping in terms of alleviating some of the stress at the back of my mind, because I'm like, I have my list for acquiring this. So I've got that. I've got that now, and I'm adding to that. And I also there she talked about using things like your credit cards in a responsible way, but also
Hmm.
in a way that it can also add to your toolkit of what to do as a contingency. And so
Yep.
things were coming together this week, and I'm like, oh, got this. I was like, okay, I can
Yep, I got
breathe.
two cards that
So,
I never touch
mm-hmm,
that they might carry a $10 balance, but I know like if I need to use it, I can use
mm-hmm,
it, period.
yes,
So I wanted to ask you, because I know that your business, what you're doing as far as the self-care and wellness and looking at how that can be a positive impact when moving abroad. So I know my answer to this question, but I'm going to see if we're going to jinx each other.
okay.
So, okay, so like, what advice do you have for creating a self care routine while adjusting? It's going to be kind of a two part in
Mm-hmm.
a new country, and how can someone identify like support that location that supports self care and mental health needs?
Okay, so okay, let's go with the first part where you were talking about, wait a minute, say that again, where
Creating a
you want.
creating a self care routine in a new country.
Okay, creating self-care routine in a new country. You starts with one, it starts with self-awareness, because you need to know what makes you feel at ease and comfortable regardless of your environment. And then so you have to have that level of internal comfort and awareness to the degree that you can take that with you when you go, because as some other people have, I don't know who said it before, but wherever you go, there you are. So if
Yep.
you are somebody who is already at dis-ease, it doesn't matter what environment, what country you go to, you're going to take that with you. So if you haven't already addressed that, first things first, and I'll recommend this to anybody. I started therapy last year, therapy consistently last year. And I know looking back that if I hadn't started that journey of dealing with my own issues internally, especially traumas and things come up that you don't even know were traumatic and were affecting your behavior, on autopilot. And
Hmm.
so, what I would first of all say, you need to have that stuff done or going. You need to be in the doing that work before you say, what going ahead, what you're going to do in terms
Yeah.
of a self-care routine going
As I say,
anywhere.
it's okay not to be fully healed, but you need to be working
Right,
on being healed.
right. And so
Yeah.
you need to be dealing with your mental and emotional healing. And everybody, I don't care whether you had the most blissful childhood, you had the least um issue prone adulthood or whatever. We all, as human beings, we all get dings and bruising just going through life. And so that's one thing, you should have some mental health toolkit for as an aspect of your self-care. That's important. If your mental health is not part of your self-care, you're not doing self-care. Let's keep it 100. Getting a mani pedi and doing a facial, that's not self-care. Anybody that's confused with that, that is treating yourself, because that you're treat it's like me putting a band-aid on a on a bullet hole. That ain't it. That's not going to solve your problems. So that's why I say that. So getting to a new place, part of your self-care routine is I would say, give yourself grace at the get-go.
Mm.
Give yourself grace, because when you give yourself grace, you're allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, to have some insecurities, to have a little anxiety because you're in a new space. When you give yourself grace in that, you can breathe more.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, you want to look for things. What are some things that I can do um, physically based on my new home that are going to, keep me fit? Now, I never been one to say, oh, everybody needs to be in the gym. No,
Mm.
because I don't even, with the pandemic and everything, I'm not even in the gym anymore.
Hmm.
I find practical ways to incorporate, and I think that's one of the most sustainable things you can do in terms of self-care from a physiological point perspective, is to do activities that you can incorporate aspects of physical fitness into. Like, people laugh at me at work. Because we're in the laboratory, we're all the way in the basement. And so to go anywhere at the back of the hospital, you got to take the stairs. And so what do? I say, okay, I know I need to work out. I'm probably not going to work out when I get home after this shift. So what can I do to incorporate physical fitness in my work? What am I going to do? Tonye is going to take 15 minutes going from the base of the basement all the way up to the sixth floor repeatedly. And then
Well,
I'm going to
girl,
change
'cause
my
I,
weight.
I, I
Yeah,
ain't doing that, but okay.
that's
Yeah,
exercise.
whatever it is that you need to do to work,
Whatever
yeah,
you
to
need
get
to
it. Yeah.
do, environment that you can incorporate, because it's not a hard thing. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to change my clothes, put on my gym clothes and gym shoes, and put on the sports bra. I don't have to do all that. I can get an aspect of my self-care done there. Studies have shown that you do not need to have invest in physical fitness continuously in order to meet the same um, fitness requirements during the day. So you can take 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. You can get up in your chair. You can walk the stairs, go to the groceries, balance your groceries in both arms. If shop, you have a little bodega that you go to. Especially if you're in some place like Portugal, walk up the hills with those two bags. By the time you get home, guess what? You've done weight bearing exercises. By the
Yeah.
time you do that. So all you got to do is add a little more to that. So that's just, two examples of doing things that way. Other things too, journaling is another, good way of self-caring, because that helps you with, I find it for, self-awareness. You can take your temperature, you can do a mental health, check with yourself. Am I okay? How did my day go? A lot of times we go through life, and I'm finding that as I get older, appreciate the moments. Doing things like journaling helps you stay in the moment. You're
And
not
speak
caught.
your
You're
truth in your journaling,
right.
please. Don't,
Please
please.
don't lie to yourself.
Yeah, please don't lie to your journal. Don't. You're lying
Mm-mm.
to yourself. Don't do that.
But give
Okay.
yourself some grace. If you've never journaled before and you start journaling, you find yourself writing a story, give yourself some grace and say, okay, girl, tell the truth. Let me write the let me tell the truth in here now. Nobody is listening. Mom's not here, dad's not here, friends not here, my boss is not here. Let me just
Yeah,
put
don't
it,
go there
spill
talking about
out.
how you just had one drink in the past month or how you were eating
Hmm.
salads for the past 2 weeks. So, yeah, don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
What happened?
Exactly. Exactly. So, you can do that. And then, and then another thing too that's really important is very easy, especially if you're somewhat of an introverted person, it's very easy to get um, to cycle down into isolation. And so,
Mhm.
especially when you're in a new environment, it's very easy to go into that, caveman mentality where you pull yourself back because you're in protection mode because you're in a new environment. So, one of the good things to do is have a little, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, have a little exercise, a mental exercise with yourself today where I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to see who's out in the community, who can I connect with. I had I did that exercise when I was actually in Portugal. I reached out to the Black Americans in Portugal on Facebook before I got there, and even when I got there, and they were like, we meet here every Wednesday for X, Y, and Z. And that was an awesome time. I had picked up some new skills, how uh, to cobble some Portuguese and English together with the taxi driver, with the boat driver to get to the cafe to meet up with people to order some. And so I acquired some skills along the way, navigating a new space in a language I don't understand, to go out and meet my community. So
I'm
that
sorry,
was
I'm
fun.
confused here because I know about Black in Portugal. What is this other one?
There are two groups. Black in Portugal is bigger and it's been more established, but there are Black Americans in Portugal. That's a
Okay.
smaller group. I think it's under 1,000, but
Okay.
somewhere near there. They have I think it's every Wednesday they have a meetup, and they were so welcoming and awesome. They waited for me to get there because I was late. My butt was late, but they were meet. Some other ladies were coming from the airport directly, and they said, "You know what? We're gonna wait for them to get here too." So we did that too. So there's something that happens to you internally and a blossoming
I
of
understand.
yourself that happens when you do that. It's like you stretched yourself and you get this sense of accomplishment. I was able to navigate in this place all by myself. I don't speak the language, but I did it, and I got to meet my people in XYZ, and it was fun.
Okay.
So
Okay.
get community, making the effort to get community and reach out and connect with community too is another aspect you should that you should have in your self-care routine. Not that you need to do it every day. Everybody has their tolerance level,
Mm-hmm.
but make those, you should incorporate that as part of your self-care, because you're not one you're developing and growing skills that either you don't have or you're acquiring, in the process of acquiring, and all of that ministers to your own well-being. So
Yeah. So, wow, yeah. So I can go on and stuff because I was just thinking about that's one of the big things that I was thinking about when you're a part of your self care is, especially when you're in a completely new community, is to force yourself to develop. Now, it's not hard for me because I'm going to go out and just talk to strangers randomly, anyways,
yeah,
and
so you're an
you know.
extrovert. Me, I got to work at it.
Yeah. And so, but I still encourage, yes, to be able to see that, acknowledge it, and know it might be some work, but there's a major payoff in the end.
Hmm.
That you're communicating, that you're building community. And like me being here in Zaragoza, there are some groups that I have joined. But as far as when people ask about the Black community in Zaragoza, it's
Hmm.
it's it's actually growing anyways. It is
Hmm.
growing, but I know that I feel like part of it will be my actions will also be impacting this. And so, if there's not a big American community of Black people in Zaragoza yet, it's coming. Okay.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so and I say that confidently that community, even though yes, I want to build and invite people to join the Black community, and that's why I fell in love with Madrid, but community overall too,
Mhm.
other like-minded
Right.
things to do. Like I would
Right.
like to take a sewing class, so I'm going to
Yeah.
be doing my research to see about when I can start taking a sewing class.
Right.
So there's other ways that you can, get out there and meet people
Right.
that you might only see, once a week or once every 2 weeks or
Right.
whatever it is, but at least, putting that effort in so you're not just coming to another country and then not flourishing
Right.
in a great
And
way.
that's
Yeah.
the thing too with understanding, what self-care truly looks like, especially when you're not looking at it from, because I think a lot of what's promoted and what's been put out there that's all sanitized and whitewashed, for lack of a better, phrasing. Self-care
Hmm.
is not something that is outside of you. It is something that is intrinsically a part of you, and that outside, that externalizing, or that it's an artificial form that's very, and that's, it can, get away from it being a colonized approach to something that's actually so sacred and personal to every individual.
Hmm.
There's a collective version of self-care that's based on community, but there's an internal self-care ultimately on the individual level, starts with you, because it's what's something that you do to self-nourish, to replenish, and to be well. And it's a holistic thing because it integrates all aspects of you. It's not just physical fitness. It's not just what you eat. It's not just you, getting therapy mentally. It's being the whole you that is healthy and a balanced and aligned. And so when you approach it from that way, then you begin to recognize that this is something that is addressing this need, that need. There are creative aspects of self-care. That's why some people, it's very therapeutic for them to paint, to sketch. For me, it's dance. And I know sometimes when I'm in a mode for, I use dance, because I like to do kickboxing to music. But I have a certain track of music that I use. I call it my warrior goddess dance
Mm.
track, that I use for working out. And it does something for me mentally, physically. And there is a component, you get to a point where it's almost like you're in a zone, that it becomes a
Yeah.
spiritual thing. And so that's why you have all these overlapping parts of it, that's, you can't pull out and put in a box and say, oh, this is self-care and this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
Oh, this is great. Well, Tony, this has been really, really amazing. I love these conversations. I really
me
do. It's
too.
like just to finding strength by talking and
Hmm.
sharing and inspiring. That is
Oh
like
yeah.
amazing. So I just put your Instagram
Hmm.
on here in the chat. So any links that I put on the existing chat while we're live, I actually it's in the description
Okay.
of this vlog. So yes, but
Awesome.
I did want to go ahead because you did send me one other thing, and that was the guide.
Yeah, the self-care guide, and it's a brief guide, and it and then I did it because I recognize that a lot of people, including myself, are very visual, and so you have a better way to conceptualize things when you have an idea of what you need to include in your self-care, practice. So
Hmm.
that's it's got some little instructions and things of that nature, just a visual guide, because not everybody knows where to start when it comes to self-care, but these are the basic things you need to have in your self-care, what I like to call a toolkit. And then from there on, everybody needs to personalize that. If you're a mom, you need to have a personalized version. If you're a dad, you should have a personalized version. If you're a rich auntie, have a personal version. If you have none of
Yes.
that, personalize it. But the point of the matter is, you need to have basic elements that should be incorporated into your self care routine.
Okay, okay. Well, this is great. I'm also going to, so I have your links in here, and then also, you need to, if you're interested in getting some updates from me from Locating Cozy about what all is possibly happening in 2025, if you stay in the know about any updates, any facts, please do sign up for my email. Now, with that, you will automatically get a link to, you'll get, once you sign up for the email subscription, you will actually get a moving to Spain checklist.
Oh,
Okay. And
oh,
on that
that's great.
checklist,
Oh, I
there's
gotta
some
get that.
referral information that's going to possibly make your life a little bit easier if you're looking to come here um, to Spain. There's like different resources, but then also a lot of that information on there is besides some stuff that's very Spain specific, but a lot of the information on there is also helpful for if you're moving or relocating to another country overall. Okay. So, like, there's a section on there that speaks about the Spain requirements for the 19 different types of visas that that are out there for Spain. And there, I have a link just to the Spanish consulate website and also to my attorney, my solicitor, who I have interviewed before on my YouTube channel,
Okay.
Carlos Arroyo. Excuse me, Arroyo. And so that information is very specific to Spain, but a lot of the other information on that checklist is something that is transferable when you're actually considering going to another country. Yeah, but then again, I'm not your legal representative or your facilitator, so keep that in mind too. But yes, please do definitely sign up for the email subscription, and you will get that download that's going to give you some great insight and information about what you need to consider when moving abroad. So, anyways, I wanted to say thank you again. I appreciate it. Yes, I could definitely go on and on
Mm,
with talking to you, but this has been
you're
wonderful, and I
amazing.
really do. So, hey, if you hold on for just a minute, if I get
All
myself
right.
together, and we will see you guys later. Okay? I was trying to go low. That didn't work. I don't have my intro outro done very well. Bye, y'all.
Bye.